Let's head back to the beautiful year of 1995 for another Van Damme film. Let's do this. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And today we're going to talk about another Jean-Claude Van Damme film, and this one is Sudden Death. Yes, this movie came out December 22nd of 1995. It had a $35 million budget. Upon release, it made 20 in America, and worldwide it made $64 million. Now, this was a reteaming for Van Damme and director Peter Hyams. Peter Hyams and Van Damme collaborated a year before on a little film called Time Cop, which is actually pretty damn good. If you get a chance, check that out. I'm going to do a review on that sometime within the next few months. And Peter Hyams has been around for a long time. He did a 2010 sequel to 2001. He did Running Scared in 86 with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, which is a pretty cool little buddy cop movie. He did The Relic in 97, which I really like that film. He did End of Days with Schwarzenegger in 99. I like that film. And he also has the distinction of he's usually his own director of photography as well. And he does a nice job with this film. We'll talk about that. And in this film, we have Jean-Claude Van Damme as Darren McCord. He's a firefighter, which we see right away in the beginning of the film. And Powers Booth as Joshua, although they never say his name during the film. That's what he's listed as online if you look up the credits. And Powers Booth is always entertaining, and he's fantastic here in this film as well as the main bad guy. Right in the beginning of the film, we see Van Damme in a burning house trying to rescue a little girl. And unfortunately, he fails. The little girl dies before he can get her out of the building. And that weighs on him. And we see that right in the beginning of the film. He's divorced from his wife. She's with another man. And he sees his kids, but he's not. And they share custody of their kids. And he hasn't gone back to being a full-time firefighter yet. This tragedy has weighed on him. And I think it's a year later, maybe 2 years later. I might be wrong in the timeline, but it's some time later. And he has 2 tickets to the Penguins playoff game. It's actually the Stanley Finals, last game in the Stanley Finals, and he wants to take his kids. So he gets to take his kids, and he's going to be the fire marshal for the game. He's starting to get back into working again after this tragedy. And the movie does a nice job of setting up the plot, the players that are involved, and pretty much what the purpose is of the bad guys. It's very efficient the first half hour of this film. And it moves pretty quick in terms of setting up plot, setting up the bad guys, setting up their plan, how they're going to execute it. Peter Hyams does keep the pace moving in terms of setting up everybody, the characters, who we're supposed to be following, who we're supposed to care about, what's their plan, how they're going to do it. It's nicely set up by Peter Hyams and the writer of this film. Now, funny enough, before we get into more of the film, this film was based on a story by Karen Baldwin. Now, there's no reason for you to know that name unless you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. But she was, at the time, I don't know if these people are still alive, but she was the wife of the then owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins. She wrote the story, and then they based a script around her story for this film. And right away, well, not right away, it takes 37 minutes before Van Damme actually fights somebody hand-to-hand. So there's a lot of setup, a lot of, the vice president's going to this game. And basically Powers Booth and his goons are trying to kidnap the vice president to get money out of these accounts that the U.S. government has overseas into his account so he can make away with some money. And if they mess with him, he's going to blow up the whole arena. He has the arena rigged to blow with plastic explosives. And as Darren's 2 children, he has them stay in their seats, but his little girl ends up getting kidnapped by the bad guys because he sees Van Damme's character knows the girl who plays the Pittsburgh Penguins mascot. And the little girl thinks it's the same woman, but it's not. It's one of the bad guys. They already killed that woman. And this other woman who works for Powers Booth's character is in the costume, so she gets kidnapped. And then when we get, it's kind of an amusing scene, but it's a well-shot fight scene between Van Damme and this big chick in this Penguins costume in the kitchen until he finally kills her. And that's pretty much what starts the action. That's pretty much Van Damme killing goon after goon, mano a mano, trying to find the explosives and disarm them, meanwhile trying to get his daughter back. And on the outside of the building is the Secret Service and all law enforcement trying to figure out a way to stop the situation, get this man his money. And towards the end of the film, Van Damme, it starts going a little bit more over the top towards the end of the film with the action. Although it's still highly enjoyable, but you're just there for the ride at this point. If you bought into the setup and you're along with Van Damme for the ride, once it starts going over the top at the end, you don't really mind it. You just go along with the film. There's some over-the-top stunts done practically for the most part, obviously. And this is before CGI was really a big thing. It had been used in some films notably, but at this point, a $30 million budgeted film didn't use a whole lot of CGI back then. Van Damme rescues the vice president, gets his daughter back, dispatches a Powers booth because they're trying to get away from the helicopter. The helicopter comes down through the roof of the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, crashes on the ice, it explodes, and Van Damme saves his children, the vice president's saved, and we have a happy ending, and that is sudden death. This film is, like I said, is very efficient for the first 30 minutes, setting up the players, setting up who our bad guys are, who our good guy is, why we should give a shit, the vice president being there, all these little things. It does a really nice job of setting everything up. And once the bad guys execute their plan, I was on board for it. Powers Booth plays a really great bad guy, and it's not like he hasn't before. He did in Tombstone and other things. So he's really good here, and the goons don't get a whole lot of screen time or character development. They're just there to be the enforcers. The vice president, we get to know him a little bit, but it's more about Darren getting his daughter back, rescuing everybody in the arena, and taking out the bad guys. And they never set up why this firefighter knows martial arts or knows how to kill these bad guys. Although Van Damme does play a little bit different. He's a little bit, he plays more with his emotions here, especially when the little girl dies in his arms in the beginning of the film. And he's still unsure of himself about being a firefighter. They do play that up a little bit, but this is an action movie. We're here to see the action. They do deliver on that. I will say one thing, a little negative. It's about 75% away before we get to our final act and our finale. The film starts to drag a little bit for how efficient and fast-paced the setup is. Once we get to about 70 to 75% way through the film, I feel it dragging a little bit. Almost like this film could have been cut down by, I say this a lot, but about 5 to 10 minutes of unnecessary stuff to get on to the finale. I just think for how efficient it was in the beginning, it drags a little bit until we get to the finale. Then we have this big finale with the helicopter getting crashing through, the roof's open and crashing on the ice and exploding. But overall, this is a pretty damn good Van Damme film. It's well directed by Peter Hyams, who's a good director. He's a solid director. He always was. He's had some films that aren't that great, but this is one that he does a pretty damn good job with. And Van Damme's good in the film. Powers Booth's good in the film. The rest of the actors are doing fine here. They're not asked to do a whole lot, but the action's well shot. There's some good special effects. There are a few scenes where they're noticeably green screen, you could tell. But for a budget of this size, it's a good effort. It's a good, solid action film. It's an enjoyable action film. Like I said, by the third act, there's some really over-the-top stunts. And if you're already on board by that point, I have no problem just going and suspending reality and going along with what's going on screen. And, I think it's a good enough film that you do forget about that this is so over the top, some of these stunts, that you're just having a good time with it. It's a good time action film, honestly. I don't think it's Van Damme's best, but I think it's a good solid action effort in the mid-90s before Van Damme started going into direct-to-video land, where he's languished ever since, except for a few films like The Expendables 2. But yeah, it's a solid film. Now, during the film, when they filmed in the arena, the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, some of the fans in the stands for the hockey game, because they do show a lot of hockey footage as well, because it takes place during the game. They had to use cardboard cutouts because they didn't have enough money to pay enough extras to fill the arena. Well, that was pretty interesting. And at no time did I notice they were cardboard cutouts, but they did say they used cardboard cutouts. And it's not until 37 minutes into the film when Van Damme has his first fight. I thought that was pretty interesting. Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Bruce Willis were considered for the roles. Each of them turned it down before Van Damme took it. And he's the one that got Peter Hyams to direct the film. At first, Peter Hyams wasn't interested, but he had a good time working with Van Damme on Time Cop that he decided to come and do this film. Overall, this is a very solid R-rated action film. It's unapologetically over the top towards the end, but it's still a good time. I would give Sudden Death a 7 out of 10. I think it's a solid action flick. 7 out of 10 for Sudden Death. Have you ever seen this Van Damme film? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. I hope everyone out there has a great weekend. I'll be back next week with some more reviews. And until then, bye.